Today we're going to talk about grief and how we can deal with difficult situations in our lives through acupressure and how different things in Chinese medicine can help us process through grief. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Chinese Medicine Podcast. I'm Marie Hopkinson, an acupuncturist and a herbalist. Today's episode we're going to talk about grief, going through a difficult time. Now it is a really sensitive topic and I know that just bringing it up can sometimes be a lot for people. So if you've clicked on this video, you obviously know from the title what it's about. But grief can be a sense of loss that we experience from lots of different things in life. It can be the loss of a loved one, a loss of a person, but it can also be just as traumatic in our body. And sometimes because we don't allow ourselves the chance to grieve or the opportunity to go through that process properly, we might dismiss it and find that we have lingering effects from grief from things like losing a pet, losing a business, losing a relationship, and even we can have grief from losing the sense of something that we hoped for. So that sense of despondency and disappointment. How does that affect us in Chinese medicine? Well, it affects our metal element, our lungs particularly. Your large intestine is part of the metal element, and we can sometimes see situations where patients have constipation as a result of prolonged grief. So because I mentioned all those other types of things that can happen to us and that can cause us grief, I don't want that to kind of dismiss or belittle the grief that happens from the loss of a person. I think there's no comparison to that, but these are other things that can still affect us. And look, these topics are hard to bring up and they're hard to talk about. So if you're finding it hard to listen to as well, that's okay. But I want to talk about 3 acupressure things we can do to help us with grief and to help us process through the grief. And if it's been something that's, you think there's something lingering in your life because of grief, you can try using these acupressure points. I would highly encourage you to seek the help of a professional, be it a counsellor or your general practitioner. If you're in Australia, you can see a GP and they'll help you. You can access like mental health care plans usually through your doctor, and they might be able to help you with the financial burden of it. If you're in the US, it's all like usually a private system, I think. But either way, it's good to kind of seek the help of a professional within this. So let's talk about some of these points. The first thing I want to talk about is your lung channel. So where's your lung channel go? It goes on your arm, and it's one of the first channels we ever teach students in Chinese medicine because one, it's the easiest channel to find and it's easy to find on yourself. And I'll just kind of go through it here. So you have lung 1 and 2, kind of 1 and 2 here, and then it just kind of goes down your arm and down here to, this is called your thenar eminence, and down to your hand. So there's a couple of points. This one here, lung 9, is a good one to use, and also up here on your chest. So how do we find these points? Pretty easy. If you find your clavicle bone, this bone across here, and you just come up to that clavicle bone where it reaches your deltoid muscle, kind of up here. Now you don't have to know the names of those muscles. You can just kind of go, here's a bone, and boop, come down into a little depression there. And that point's going to be called lung 2. And the one below that in the rib space, you can kind of push right in, and it's sensitive. Directly below that is going to be your lung 1. Now these points you can just kind of press or massage like this. And I would suggest that you just do this for a couple of minutes, and you can kind of feel sensitive and sore in those areas. That's okay. You just kind of do it like this. If you press them hard and then you do this, they're going to be even more sensitive. But if you just kind of do this on there, so you can kind of use your hand to rub, and we're getting into that lung channel. So massaging your lung channel from lung 1 and 2 in that area, using a bit of friction like that can be good. And that's just stimulating your lung channel. And we can also just go down the lung channel with our hand. I like this bird pecking method. It's called digital striking in acupressure. And you can just kind of go down now. Your lung channel is a yin channel. It means it's on the inside of your arm, and it can be sensitive. So it's okay if it feels sore. You can just kind of go like that, along there and along your forearm. So the other part you can do is just along your forearm here. So where is it? It's not exactly in the middle. Here's the middle of your arm. It's actually on this side, down here. So I can put my arm like this and it goes down there, down there. So we just kind of want to rub along there. And you can just do that for a few minutes. So the second one I want to give you is also on your hand, on your wrist. This is a point you can use if you've got a broken heart. And this is right in the middle. It's called pericardium 7, darling. So you can think of it as like, darling, I've lost my darling. I've got a broken heart. And this could be because you've lost a relationship. It could be because of a recent loss. If your heart feels broken, it's a broken heart. you know, I think people know when they've got a heartbreak happening. That recency of grief is usually when we would have this. Like, it might not feel like that a few months or a few years later after something has happened. But if it's recent, this is a point that you want to use. So where is that point? It's right directly in the middle of your wrist. So if you divide that into half at the crease, and you'll sort of feel two tendons where it's kind of, there's a little space between two tendons there. And you want to just kind of press that. You can use your wrist to kind of flop into the point and press in on it. You could apply a little bit of essential oils. I like to use lavender on there. Frankincense oil is a good one. Traditionally, rosemary is used for grief as well. Like, you often see funeral homes use rosemary. It's an associated scent with grief, and we could go into more details about that, but there is historical use of rosemary for grief. So you could use that. Now, before you put rosemary oil on yourself, you need to do a little test or maybe dilute it. It is a strong oil. So we can kind of press in that point. And so that's for a broken heart. Like, if, especially if you've lost a pet or a relationship or something has happened, even at the loss of a person. And that's a 13 ghost point. And that's a part of its categorization of points as well. And being in the pericardium, it's like another translation for the pericardium in Chinese medicine is your heart protector. So it's like protecting your heart from that grief and that heartbreak. So I'm going to give you two other things we can do for grief and loss. Second one is also affecting our lungs, but on the back. So if we go on the back, I like to use the coat hanger. You've probably seen me do this on other videos before. And where this point is it's level with your third thoracic vertebra. Now, you're not going to be able to find that on your back with the coat hanger exactly there. So where is it? It's also level with the spine of your scapula. So if you've sort of hit on here onto the spine of your scapula, which is the bony part that's projecting out, and you just come next to it, it's going to be in that area. So when you're doing this, you're actually going to be hitting in an area, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be the exact point. Your bladder channel's got two lines on it. I'll put a picture on the thing so you can kind of see. Muscle-wise, we're touching the rhomboids muscle, and if we open our scapula up a little bit, so we move this way a bit, we can kind of get in there a bit. Now, the purpose of this is to gently tap on those points, not sort of, I've showed this before for things like, I'm pressing it pretty hard with that, for things like headache or pain. So this is just gently tapping in that area. What you should feel is like a tingly or just a sensation there, just very lightly, and kind of what we're trying to do is press the point of bladder 42, which is the outer bladder point to the lungs, and that deals with our corporeal soul, or our Po in Chinese medicine. This is probably a little bit more technical than what you thought you'd get on this video, but that's what you can do. So you can try and do that. So the first thing that we can do is we can massage our lung channel. So we can kind of go lung 1 and 2 up here, and then go down our channel and all those different aspects. You can even just massage the lung channel here. The second one is using pericardium 7 for heartbreak and like grief and loss that's happened more recently. And then for this is good for pent up grief, things that, you might have lost a business or something that's happened a while ago, or something where you think back on your life and you feel a sense of loss that wasn't grieved for. Then you could kind of do these points here and massage in that area. And then the last one that we want to talk about is when people are like consumed by darkness and they just feel, if they're in such a state of grief, you might feel like you never smile. You just find it hard to find any joy in life, and there's nothing, that's a really low place to be in. And I doubt that people maybe in that place have clicked on this video. And I hope that if you have clicked on this video, then you're looking at getting help and you're in a place of getting help. But sometimes what can happen is people get such a place of darkness that they don't see any hope, and they don't feel that it can be hard to seek help. So, this might be a point that you could use for someone that you know that's going through that. And this point here is on your chin. It's called Ren 24, conception vessel 24. And this point helps when people haven't felt joy for a long time. It's like actually the point that kind of indicates, like it's around your muscle of your lips that, indicates smiling. So helps you to smile. So you can just press this point. And you would just want to hold this for a while and then see what comes up. And you have to be careful with using some of these points that you're going to stir things up. So if you're ready to stir things up, this is good. You're ready to deal with it. You're ready to see what happens. Then this is good to kind of do that. So pick a time where you don't have a lot of stuff going on in your life at that time. I wouldn't do this when you're like, I've got something important to do in 5 minutes. I'll just quickly deal with my grief in this 5-minute time. No, pick a time where you can just sit there and deal with it for that day. And you just kind of press this point, and this would be a good thing to do in conjunction with journaling, or if you're doing it privately, right? Or doing it in conjunction with seeing a psychologist or a counsellor or someone that's helping you, and you're doing your homework at home that they've given you to do, and you're processing through these feelings. This is a good point to press. And what you do is you just press it, you just close your eyes, and you just kind of, you wouldn't be talking, you'd just be thinking and just letting those thoughts kind of come to you. You could do a mindfulness activity at the same time where you're trying to, sounds funny saying activity, because mindfulness is trying to clear your mind, not do activities. But you could do a mindfulness process that kind of helps you get to that place. If you're finding that your brain is just full of stuff and it won't let you get to the things that you want to deal with. So they're the points. So this one here is, for people that are consumed by darkness and really have a big lack of joy. Your lung channel can be used for all kinds of just dealing with grief. It's just activating that channel and activating your metal element that's relating to that. This one here is also the same kind of idea behind. So it's using what's called the back shoe points for the lungs. And if we're more close to the scapula on the outside, next to the thoracic vertebra of T3, it's called bladder 42. And that's the point that deals with the Po, the outer bladder points of the back shoe ones deal with, the spiritual resources of those organs. So that's what we're doing. We're dealing with the spiritual resource aspect of the lungs, which is dealing with grief, letting go. So we can do that massage down our lung channel. We can do that one. We can press this one here. And then for the heartbreak, we've got pericardium 7. So I hope some of these points will be useful and helpful to you. I honestly hope you don't need these points, but if you do, or you know someone who's going through this, can be a helpful way of processing through those feelings that are difficult and hard to deal with. And helping us get through loss and grief is actually something that's a part of everybody's life. And it's a hard time, and there's no way of making it less of a hard time, but hopefully these points can help you process through that difficult time. So thank you so much for your attention and your interest in learning about Chinese medicine, and I look forward to seeing you again on another video soon.